you. Um, First, I want to start. What have you been most busy with as far as the bank's operations are concerned? Which are your priority areas, so to speak?
Well, the busiest area right now is our integration of the Citibank retail portfolios. We want to make sure that the transition is smooth so that the customers will continue to be happy with the service. And the second one is the digital bank. So the digital bank was launched last year. It's doing quite well in terms of business it's generating. So we want to make sure that it continues to be robust. It's been over a year now. Of course, we have not completed the migration. We're still using some of the Citibank branding, but that's going to disappear by the end of the first quarter next year. And so far, we've been pleasantly surprised that not only have we been able to keep nearly all the customers with the rate at which the business is growing has been much better than what it was even during the time that Citi was running it. So that one is very good. Of course, it was a lot of hard work. We had to ensure that all the services, all the product features that Citi had would be available in the new card, when they move over. So that means what took Citi probably 10 years to build, we had to recreate in a matter of 12 months. So you can just imagine the kind of work that goes into it. So Citi was also large in the wealth segment. And this is something that we had, but we probably had about a 3%, 4% market share. But with the Citi acquisition, our market share on the wealth segment would probably be upwards of 10%, so 10 to 12. And so it's a pretty good base that we can expand and really develop big time in that particular area. The customers of Citi on the credit card tended to be the wealthier. In fact, that portfolio had one of the highest spend per card among all the cards in the Philippines. So a lot of those customers would qualify for like housing loans, car loans. But Citi never had those products. So now they can avail of these products at Union Bank. If we're able to do that, then all of a sudden they can be wealth customers. And even Citi also didn't have housing loans, they didn't have car loans. So there's very little they can do with this customer base. So they sort of kind of say, okay, we'll just deal with you on a cards basis. But for us, we have all the products where customers can use, and we can make more money out of that particular set. So it makes sense for us.
And so what's the future for the segment?
I think consumer banking is the future for the Philippines for a number of reasons. Number one is that we're one of the fastest growing economies in the Philippines, in Southeast Asia. I know we always complain that we're not growing as fast as before, but the reality is we still are among the fastest growing Southeast Asia. We're not only growing faster than everyone else in terms of the GDP, we're also growing faster in terms of population. And not only population, but the working population. Right? As the economy improves, the GDP per capita also moves up because our GDP is growing faster than the population. What we know is when the per capita income crosses the $4,000 mark, the consumption of consumer products moves up like that exponentially. So all of a sudden, people are qualified for credit cards, auto loans, mortgage. In many of the Southeast Asian countries, it starts with motorcycles. So that's the early indicator. Yeah, and we're starting to get there. Philippines, we were never really a bike riding group, no? But But the sales of motorcycles and penetration is moving rapidly. I mean, it's double-digit growth for the last 5 years. I guess because as the society becomes more affluent, what's the first thing that you do? You cannot afford to buy a car. You buy a motorcycle.
So moving into digitalization, I know that it's been the buzzword, maybe the way forward for banks, especially for traditional ones. It improves access, efficiency, as you
Yes.
said, and of course financial inclusion. So what's your attitude towards digitalization? I know that you
Well, everyone, I think, understands that it's not just a nice thing to have. It's absolutely necessary that as a bank you must have it. If not, I don't think you will be relevant as a bank 5 years from now. If you don't have digital. However, reflecting on the last 6-7 years, I realized it's not an easy thing to do. And there are ongoing challenges. And what are these challenges? See, as you get people weaned out of the branch, they become dependent on you. So in the early days, if you hit an availability rate of 90%, it was okay. But if people don't go to the branch anymore, 99% won't even cut it. People expect you to be available every time, right? So that increases the pressure on the banks to deliver. So when it comes to technology and the spendings required, you will soon realize that getting from 98% to close to 100%, or say Six Sigma reliability, might require you to spend double what you spent in the first 98%. As they say, the last mile is always the most expensive. Digital transformation is like an arms race. You're only as good as the last feature that you get. Now, the challenge is you need to maintain this factory of constant improvement, while at the same time you have to make sure that you are always available and your customers are happy with the service that they're getting.
How did you then let those who still want a physical passport?
What we're finding out is the senior citizens are among the fastest to adapt. Why? Because of this, well, I call it the Facebook phenomenon. All right? What we're finding out is that you reach a certain age wherein you start to connect and I don't know, you ask the older ones, okay, are they connecting more to their high school classmates, right? They're starting to attend alumni homecomings, right? They're starting to connect with their grandchildren. It's the 40 to 50 that are lost, I think, because they're neither here nor there, and that is where some of the resistance is coming from. But the senior citizens, oh boy, they're into it big time, and the minute they try using digital banking, they never go back. Yeah, very interesting, and we saw that phenomenon.
Sir, would you consider yourself as a techie?
It depends on your interaction with me. Some people think I'm too grounded on the past, with all of these things, said, oh, you seem to be very comfortable talking about the history of the Philippines, both pre-Hispanic, Hispanic, and you can name all the revolutionary leaders by name and probably when they were born. That's a hobby, all right. I think I'm not. I understand programming. I don't do programming, but I appreciate tech. Maybe because my undergraduate degree was engineering, so by training, by education, mechanical engineer. So the idea of putting technology at work is probably not alien.
Heading back to our, I want to talk about, so we had our maiden issue last July, and Union Bank is almost but not yet crossing what we call the trillionary.
We already did.
Has it been largely digital, if you will?
It's both. A large part of it also was the acquisition of Citi, so that allowed us to make the big jump. I think less than 15% na lang ang over the counter.
That's pretty
Yes, because either they go to the ATM, kasi kung titignan mo kasi, most of the transactions, what transaction can you not do?
On the
So the only thing is probably to get cash. O, dali yun. You can do ATM, you can do funds transfer.
You've been so busy with all these things, but how do you do it?
Well, you must have a hobby. Eh, otherwise, if all you do is think about work and banking and you know and dwell on the challenges, I think you'll go crazy. And so my philosophy has always been be more well-rounded, pursue sports. So, you know, I play badminton. Not as much recently as I used to, but, you know, get back to play often. And of course, my hobby is, you know, learning history, collecting artifacts from the past that tell a story. And in fact, that's why I had an exhibit a couple of months back that actually traced the history of the Philippines through artifacts. As I mentioned in one of the talks that I had when I was doing a run-through of my exhibit, all this, if you trace the artifacts and the stories that they tell, the continuing thread is you have external influences that help shape who you are from a culture perspective. And you need to understand who you are and why, but the important thing is why you are like that.
So you've talked so passionately about art. So how did you get into it?
I started collecting when it's almost right after college. When I had my first job at Procter & Gamble, I would, because we were required to do monthly, what we call, field visits, sales visits. And so what you would do is you'd visit, you know, the trade, meaning the sari-sari stores once a month. And maybe once every 6 months, you're required to go outside Metro Manila. So they required us to, you go visit Cebu, Iloilo, wherever. Okay. And in those visits, I made a point to... So the 80s was a period wherein lots of interesting ceramics were coming out, particularly in Mindanao. So this was the heyday of the Butuan excavations. And some shipwrecks were being found. So you go to these places and you find out that even in the lobbies of the hotels, some of the shops were selling. So quite interesting. And that's how I really started to get interested. So the first ones that I acquired were more of ceramics, mostly from abroad, the flags, the swords. So initially, my interest was, I just wanted to collect a few nice swords. And then the more I researched, ang dami pala. Ang gaganda. But I eventually donated my sword collection. Just before COVID, I donated 175 swords to the Museo ng Katutubong Kaalaman, Muscat. That's owned by the Unilab Foundation. Kasi parang, wow, ang gaganda nito. And sayang lang, mapupunta sa collection sa Europe, mapupunta sa collection sa US. Hindi na makikita ng mga Pilipino. So I collected for that purpose of repatriating the flags, repatriating the weapons.
If you hadn't been a banker, what would you have been doing? What would have been your profession?
Not a banker. If I would still be an executive, I'll probably be running an FMCG company. I probably would have been a regional expat of some manufacturing, of some FMCG company. But if you asked longer and say, if you had a chance to redo it ever, And I wouldn't consider and then money was not an issue. I probably would have wanted to be a history professor or some course like archaeology or those things. Then I can indulge in these things that I'm interested in.
So you've been given a term as president, like till 2025. What more do you want to bring to the table? I mean, you've contributed really a lot to the bank's growth. Any major milestones or maybe a legacy that you want to instill?
That's very clear to me. Two things. Do not leave a broken business and hand it over to not just a worthy successor, but a worthy team to succeed the team that you have. I was always reminded by Tito Ortiz, Edwin, on your first few years, you inherited a team from me. Now, you rebuilt that over time, but I handed over. You would hand over a team, ganun din. Kasi baka mamaya, lahat ng team members mo magre-retire sabay mo. Ano yung binigay mo sa susunod? Wala. Hindi pwede.
Moving forward, after your retirement, what will be the first thing that you have in mind?
I want to continue to keep being busy. Not as busy as currently. So, for example, if I get invited to sit in boards, that would be nice. So more of, I don't have to do it, but I can make use of the wisdom of experience. Di ba? Yun ang advantage eh. Do you throw away the years of experience? Sabi nga sa bangko, there are certain jobs in the bank where you're most effective in your last 2 years. Because, lalo na let's say in relationship management, you spend all the years learning, all the years making the connections. That's when you've reached that stage wherein you can truly add value. You only have 2 years left. Sayang, di ba?
So anything more on a bucket list?
Wala na akong masyado sa bucket list other than just to enjoy taking care of my granddaughter, maybe play around, have more time, or wake up late most of the time, so I don't have to wake up so early. I don't know. But I don't really have a bucket list anymore.